Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm talking about something that I've never talked about on my channel. If some of you have followed me from the very first posts that I put out on my blog, you might remember that I had, I think I had 2 boyfriends at the beginning, and then very swiftly met Ali afterwards. And so I've always kind of been in a relationship with Ali, and I think lots of people that have been watching for a while, well, in fact, sorry, I know that people are interested because I just asked on my Instagram stories, and so many of the questions were asking me about relationship advice, past relationship, have I ever been in a toxic relationship? And I thought, do you know what, for the first time in my career, let's talk about some of the things from my past and some of my past relationships, not friendships, I'm meaning like my past boyfriends. I'm not going to obviously name them, and I'm not going to be going into too much detail, but there were definitely some really important lessons that I learned from them, and hopefully by me sharing this will help you if you're going through anything similar with some of the things that I went through in my past. So without further ado, let's get into some of the questions, because I think that this is going to be quite an interesting one. So first question I had come in was, I'm not going to name people because this is like an anonymous one. Yeah, okay. So the first question that came in was, did you have any serious relationships before Ali? Yes, I definitely did. I think I had my first ever boyfriend, like proper boyfriend, at the age of 15. And he was a little bit older than me. I think he's about 3 or 4 years older than me. And he wasn't in school anymore, and I was still at school, and I thought I was like the coolest person in the world. But he was actually the first person to ever break my heart as well, which was an experience in itself. I thought it was going to end me. I thought that he was the love of my life and I would never ever get over it. And I think it probably took me about 2 years to get over him. After that, I had another boyfriend, which was when I kind of went through my alternative looks phase. I never really, I've always been into the same kinds of music and things like that, but I really dressed a lot differently. I think I kind of evolved with him, and I had my interesting haircut, I got my lip pierced, I had flesh tunnels. It was all very interesting. And I can't remember, I think I was with him for 2 years. Yes, 2 years. And then after him, I had a very sort of brief relationship with someone that had been a friend, and he was a little bit younger than me, and he'd always had a bit of a crush on me, and then I went out with him and it wasn't a very good relationship, and it ended quite swiftly. Then I had a very long-term relationship when I moved to Ibiza to work for a while. I think I was in a relationship for about 4 or 5 years with someone that I met there, but it was long distance, so it was quite difficult, quite tough, and I ended up being quite lonely from it. That was when I was at university. And then after that, I ended up getting back with the guy that I went out with when I was 15 and rekindling that, which did not last very long. And about 2 weeks after that relationship ended, I met my husband, and that was that. The next question kind of takes me back to the beginning, and it says, how was your first relationship ever? So going back to my relationship when I was 15, it was quite short-lived from what I can remember. I think it was definitely under a year, but he literally broke my heart, my little 15-year-old girl heart. He split it in two, and it was really horrible. But I thought that he was like everything, and it was really funny because it was totally not romantic in any way, shape or form. I met him when he was working on a house down my road. He was a roofer and he worked on this house, and every day I would walk past and he would whistle and I'd be like, oh, because I was 15 and silly, and that was how we ended up meeting. And he picked me up in his very souped up car, and I just remember looking at him and I just thought, oh my gosh, he was just the be all and end all, and I would never ever love again. And it was really difficult because I think we were from very different sort of lifestyles, and his friends really didn't like me, really didn't like me at all. So that was quite difficult, and I think that he was quite bothered by the fact that I wasn't liked by them. and I think he broke up with me and dumped me about, I think it was about 8 months to a year later, and I took it very, very badly. And because we lived really close together and he would always be driving around in his car, I would like go and walk around the streets where I live hoping that I would see him, and it was just horrendous, like absolutely horrendous. I learnt his phone number off by heart, which was the worst thing I ever did. Honestly, from that day, I never learnt another guy's phone number off by heart again. I still don't even know my husband's phone number off by heart, but I feel like times have changed since then, because I had my little Nokia 5110 or whatever it was, and you could only have about 10 numbers in there. But I learnt his number off by heart, so I just couldn't get rid of him. Like when I was feeling like, oh, I miss him, I would just text him, and then I'd be like, no, why did you do that? And I think it definitely did take me two years, if not longer, to get over him. And he loved it. He enjoyed the fact that I couldn't get over him, and he would taunt me with it, and he would make it so difficult for me. And he always had like girlfriends, and I never had another boyfriend in those 2 years. It just made me so upset, because I would just like, if I was in the pub where we lived and he was there, I'd have to watch him with his new girlfriend. Oh, love when you're 15 is just like nothing else. I can't believe how I felt and how sad I was and how miserable I was. And just, if I could go back now, I would literally shake me and be like, pull yourself together and go and find someone better. Needless to say, they always say that the first cut is the deepest, and I did end up many, many years later getting back with my first ever love, and it was not a great relationship. It was not a healthy relationship, and his friends still hated me. So it was still that. Unfortunately, on this occasion, the tables turned, and I actually ended up ending the relationship, and it was a little bit messy, but it was definitely for the best. And I think that now it's so nice looking back on those past relationships and being able to see how much better those people are and how much better off they are, and probably how much happier we both are not together. So yeah, that was quite an interesting first relationship, and definitely something that I would not recommend revisiting later down the line in your life, because it can be quite messy. Okay, next up, I had so many questions about overcoming heartbreak, and I definitely don't think that I am as well versed in this as I should be, although I have definitely had my heart broken. But I can be quite sort of stern, and I think it's very different when you're actually going through it. But my biggest tip would be, remove them from your life. Remove everything that you could possibly have of that person from your life. Remove their number, remove them off social media, remove anything that will remind you of that person, because you will only be making yourself feel worse, and you will only be torturing yourself in the long run, because all of those things remind you of times that don't exist anymore. They're not there, they're just memories, and it's not a current relationship anymore. So I definitely think that will accelerate the process, but these things can take time, and it's important to sort of acknowledge those feelings and not try and suppress them, but just acknowledge them, feel them, and also try to remain as strong as you possibly can, because it can get even messier when you start getting into casual situations. People always get hurt when someone thinks, oh gosh, maybe we can do this casually, and there's always going to be that one person, which I have been, where you think, this is definitely going to go somewhere, and this is going to make him fall back in love with me, and it just never does. And if anything, I kind of felt like I lost a lot of my self-respect, and it made it harder for me to then go on and get over it, because I kept going back and I kept revisiting and I kept giving myself hope. Obviously, if you are completely able to do that and lock off your feelings, you're good. I just wasn't that type of person. I was very much someone that like falls in love really, really hard, and I find it very, very difficult if I get my heart broken to remove that person. So I have to be really sort of cut and dry and not revisit that person again. as much as I can. So yeah, I think it takes a lot of self-discipline and a lot of belief in yourself, but also being kind to yourself and allowing yourself to just go and be by yourself, regroup, get your headspace in the right space. I'm never someone that's like, burn everything. I don't think that that's the answer. I think that it's important to acknowledge the feelings that you had for that person, remember them, file them away and keep them. And I'm sure that there'll be things that maybe you realize about that person once you're out of the relationship that gives you kind of clarity. Maybe you realize that you're a better person now that you're not with them. I know that I've had relationships where I've come out of them and it's like my blinkers have been taken off and I've kind of lost a part of myself, and I've allowed that person to even just like control me a little bit. And I'm sure that that wasn't their intention, but maybe through insecurities of their own, they've maybe wanted to keep me in a certain place and me not move from that. And so sometimes breakups can be a real kind of change and a real catalyst for change. And I know that there's a lot of people that will be going through this right now and thinking like, how am I ever going to get my life back on track, and what am I going to do? I'm by myself. And I always feel like this is almost like a reset, and you can start everything again, and you can do things differently and do things better and grow from it, and you'll really learn about your resilience and your strength during a time like that. And I think that it's really important to focus on those things, but you may not realize how much you've grown and your strength until you kind of made it through it. But it really is such an amazing thing to learn, and I definitely think my biggest growth and change and some of the most positive moments in my life have come from the horrible times when you have broken relationships and, you know, you break up with people and lives together become lives separate. But I definitely feel like those have been some of the most pinnacle moments in my life. I always think to the fact that Ali and I met, because I don't think that I would be doing this and all of the stuff that I get to do now if I hadn't met Ali. And if I'd stayed in those relationships previously, or in unhappy relationships, or if I'd got back with people that had broken up with me and stayed with them, I would never be doing the things that I'm doing now. So it's almost like fate sometimes comes and ends a relationship for you because that's not the path that you're supposed to be on, and you're supposed to be doing something different. And that's the universe's way of showing you that. And I always try and tell any of my friends or people that I'm talking to that are potentially going through that this could be the start of the most amazing life change, and you're only gonna know if you stick it out. So yeah, my gosh, I'm such a rambler. What's next? Ooh. How to deal with jealousy. Now, I can safely say that there is not an ounce of jealousy in my relationship with Ali. That was something that I think that he taught me. I was very used to feeling very jealous and insecure with previous partners, and I think that sometimes they would do that on purpose. I don't know why. Maybe it's to do with their own insecurities, but I was always made to feel very jealous and insecure, like that there was the possibility that they could cheat on me or find someone else at any moment, and it was quite an unsettling feeling. And so I was quite used to that when I met Ali, and he almost had to sort of teach me that not everyone was like that, and that he taught me what it was to trust people. And I think this was one of the answers to a lot of the questions that I got. How did I know that he was the one? I knew that, you know, I was attracted to him, but I trusted him, and we had such a great sense of humor together, but the trust was something that I'd never experienced before. And it was such an eye-opening thing to realize that I'd been in so many relationships where I didn't really know what trust was, and I felt very, very insecure and very unsettled and nervous. And it was a really wonderful thing to go into a relationship and be like, so this is what it's like to really trust someone. So that was quite interesting. But I would definitely say that dealing with jealousy now it's not something that I'm able to advise on, because I think that it's part of the sort of the core of the relationship. And if there's insecurity there, and if someone is making you feel insecure, you're gonna feel jealous about other people. I don't think it's necessarily always something that falls on the person that's feeling it. You will come across people that just are quite unsettled and quite insecure about their partners speaking to or being around other people or other people from the same sex as them. And I think it's really important for the person that is feeling that to be taught what it's like to really trust someone, and that takes time and it takes real dedication from both people. You both have to want to eradicate that jealousy in the relationship. If one person isn't really into it, or if one person just can't acknowledge the fact that they maybe have a problem with jealousy, then it's going to be a real problem. But it really does take two people tackling the problem, being committed to tackling the problem and working through it together, because I know that there are different things that both Ali and I have to navigate when it comes to being online. There was, well, I'm sure it's still the case now, but for a very, very long time, my husband would get a considerable amount of pictures that women would send him of their breasts and their lady bits, and there was constantly people making moves on my husband, not when he was my husband, but when we first got together on the internet, and I was a bit sort of like, oh, okay, this is a bit nerve-wracking, but it was something that we always discussed and made sure that we were both happy with each other's approach and how we were dealing with it. And so I've never ever felt the need to check Ali's phone, check his social media or anything like that, because we discuss this and we know that we've got plans and procedures in place to deal with when people message us like that. Not that I get it, I never get it, apart from a random guy on the other side of the world that sometimes will message me like, hello, I love you. That's pretty much all I get. But Ali gets quite interesting pictures, which he'll often go, to me, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh, this is a question about my wedding, which I thought was probably quite an interesting one. This person asks, did you have a lot of family pressure on who to invite to your wedding from your parents / in-laws? Now, Ali and I were really quite strict about this, and Ali and I wanted to make sure that we were paying for our wedding ourselves. And when you're paying for your wedding yourself, you often get to call the shots, and that was quite important to us. And we didn't really want to have any sort of worries about who we can and can't invite. And there were a few times, but it wasn't really from our parents that we had any sort of pressures. It was, in fact, I don't think we had any from people on the day. There was a couple of people that wanted like partners of people invited, but we didn't really know their partners, and it was sort of a strange one. I wouldn't expect to be invited to a wedding that I've never met the person of, unless they wanted to invite me. That's completely up to them. But that was the only thing that we had maybe some sort of like times with, but we asked the people that affected, and if they were like, they would really appreciate having that person there, then we made it happen. But as far as like pressuring us to invite anyone to our actual ceremony, we had no situations like that, and everyone was really respectful, and it worked out really well. I really enjoyed it. But I think that comes with it. Obviously, if people are contributing to your wedding, then I guess you kind of have to, I think it's unfair, and people shouldn't start telling you who you can invite to your wedding, but sometimes you do get those people that do, and it's so personal to you and your relationship with that person that I guess I wouldn't really be able to advise. It's sort of how you feel and whether that's the right thing to do by saying no, or whether you know that it'll upset them too much. But for us personally, I was literally like, you can't tell me nothing. Does it annoy you when people ask you if you want kids? I think it did in the beginning, because I was just like, no, I don't want kids. Why are you asking me this? Shut up. But at the time I didn't want kids, and I think that's something that probably changes with age, but it doesn't really upset me in the sense that it upsets me. I think it's just a question that I don't think is okay to be asked, and I feel like a lot of people do it on the internet to annoy people on the internet rather than actually wanting to know, because they know it's such an inappropriate question and it's such an unkind and unthoughtful question to ask, because there are so many people in the world that are struggling to have children, that can't have children, that have lost children. And it's just, I'm amazed by how many people there are in the world that don't realise how unkind that question is and how insensitive it is, because it's so obvious to me that that is that way. And so it frustrates me because I often feel a lot for other people. I'm one of those people that I always feel other people's sadness. And I think, God, if I was in a situation right now where I couldn't have kids, how would that affect me, that my whole entire inbox is full of people asking that question? It would be devastating. Yeah, it does rile me up, because I feel sorry for the people that are going through that and have to deal with those questions, because I just think it's not very nice. And I think with the amount that people speak about how inappropriate that question is on the internet, people should know by now. And if people don't know, we should be teaching them. And if we're not teaching them, then it should be taught in schools or something. It's just unkind. So before you ask someone if they want children, don't. Just don't. That's my advice. Oh, this is one that's the real tea. How do different incomes affect your relationship? It just doesn't affect our relationship at all. I think that both Ali and I are well-rounded and very happy with both of our incomes, and it just isn't something that ever really comes up. We've never really felt that we have to navigate that problem, and we know that it doesn't define each of us with what we earn. And I'm not a lesser human because I earn less than Ali, and Ali's not a lesser human because he earns less than me. It doesn't define human worth, and both Ali and I are completely equal in terms of our worth, and what we earn is just what affords us a really wonderful life. And whoever earns the most in that, great, it's wonderful. I think if anyone is in a relationship where someone uses the fact that they're the breadwinner or the main earner as leverage, I think that that's probably not a very healthy situation to be in, and you definitely shouldn't be made to feel that way by another person, and it shouldn't be used against you, and that's very unkind and very unhealthy to do that to another person, especially, when you're in relationships and someone is looking after the kids and they're not able to work because of the cost of childcare and things like that. That's still a job, and it's about teamwork and working together to make the most out of your life. And believe me, that the money isn't going to make you as happy as your partner is, so try not to use that to make your partner unhappy. And then finally, how to get over a manipulative relationship you put an end to. It's quite a difficult question to answer. I would say that if you've put an end to it, that's the biggest step that you could take. If that person isn't respecting the fact that you've ended it, that can be quite dangerous and problematic. And it's important for you to ensure that you're being careful, that you're being aware of what's happening and any changes in that person's behaviour, and to speak to people, to communicate any of their behaviours if they're still trying to get in contact with you, if they're still trying to manipulate you, and if their behaviour is escalating. It's just important to ensure that you are informing the right people. To protect yourself is the most important thing in this situation, and you've made such an incredible and difficult decision to end the relationship. Now, unfortunately, that person could make it even more difficult for you. So confide in your family, make sure you're not going through anything like that on your own, and that people are informed, because if anything does escalate and you find yourself in any difficult situations, people will know and know how to help you. You can even go as far as discussing procedures if you really are beginning to feel like you are concerned. And of course, if you are really, really, really concerned about the situation, then you should definitely speak to the police, because you could find yourself in a very difficult situation and a potentially dangerous situation. So if there's any information that I can put in the description box about relationships like that and who to contact, I will find it and put it in the description box down below as well. But that's always quite a difficult one to discuss. and I appreciate how hard it must be to have taken that first step and ended the relationship. So well done. That is the last of my questions, and I think that's been quite informative. I feel like I've told you loads of things that maybe you didn't necessarily know. Funny. If you would like me to do more Q&As like this, and if there are any more questions about relationships that maybe I didn't answer in this video, let me know in the comments, because perhaps I can do another video and we can talk about this more in depth. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, because it means a huge amount to me, actually, if you do subscribe, because it's such a good indicator for me if you liked my videos. So if you do, please hit the button down below, give it a like, and let me know if you have any more questions in the comments down below. Other than that, I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.